I don't throw darts at a board. I bet on sure things. Read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Every battle is won before it's ever fought. Think about it. The most valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
A, B, C. A, always, B, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing. The show goes on!
It's Wednesday night and fantasy football is on the agenda. Grab a seat and let's get down to business. It's time for the Fantasy Boardroom. Here's your host, Tycoon.
And welcome to the Fantasy Boardroom. I am your host and Fantasy CEO, Tycoon. And I call this meeting of the Fantasy Boardroom 2 session. So tonight I have a very special guest with me here today, our first board member, the co-founder of the Fantasy Collective, the co-host of the Fantasy Nightcap, the co-host of 14P's ADP Report, writer for Going for Two, 8th place finisher in Scott Fish Bowl 10, all-around badass and good guy, Mr. Shane Barrett.
Good evening.
Welcome, Shane. How are you this evening, sir?
I am good. It's a little late here on the East Coast, but with half the board being in Pacific time, you got to accommodate. So I am happy to be here.
Oh, we appreciate your commitment. So I'm going to steal a bit from you and your show. What are you drinking tonight?
Oh, great question. I am drinking my favorite beer, as revealed on Fantasy Nightcap, Son of a Peach by RJ Rockers here in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Always great to support local breweries. Sounds good. I mean, I'm not much of a fruit beer guy, but if that's your thing, tell me it's at least over 4%.
It is 5.
Fantastic. All right. It passes. And I'll join you here. I am drinking Summer Bliss Tropical Wheat from New Belgium Brewery.
Oh, New Belgium's good.
Very good. Big fan of New Belgium. So, as board members,
they've got a brewery out here or near here. I can't remember for sure, though.
I can't say I would know, but I would not be surprised.
I'm going to Google it now.
So as board members, we're lucky enough to have the perk of drinking in the boardroom, kind of like the Mad Men, no misogyny. So we should get down to business, though. We're here for a reason, so we're going to jump into the reason we're here. Well, first we are going to highlight, as two Fantasy Collective members here, we're going to highlight second-year players. We're going to look at sophomore slumps or shines. We're going to, view them under the lens of performance reviews. We've got 3 players that we're going to take a look at: Jerry Jeudy, DeAndre Swift, Jalen Reagor. And following that, we're going to have a little market update, talk some Scott Fish Bowl.
Awesome. Love it.
So first things first, for my debut article for the Collective, I put out a piece saying by Jerry Jeudy. So that does give you a little bit of an idea of where my mindset is at with Jerry long term. So I just wanted to throw him in there as the first topic of discussion amongst our sophomores. So first, my question for you is, for Jerry Jeudy, how did you view his rookie year in terms of production? What was your perspective?
It was, I don't feel like it was as disappointing as people made it out to be, simply because it was a rookie year and it was in the middle of COVID. Now, it could have done better, but to me, that wasn't all on him, if that makes a lot of sense, because he had a game where he had a cornerback or a wide receiver playing quarterback.
Sure.
So I don't hold him to a lot of, at a loss for words, but a lot of fault, I guess, for his lackluster first year, because he did still finish with
I can help you out here. 52
100
receptions, 856 yards. I think he
about
only had
113 targets.
113 targets. Bingo.
That's huge. That is a huge number.
Sutton or not, that's massive.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think even with Sutton coming back, I'd expect a similar volume.
Yeah, I honestly expect close to identical.
Yeah.
It was jumping ahead a little bit, but who cares? So as it relates to that, actually, I don't think Sutton's return are going to be taking his targets. Where that's going to be taking targets away from is Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler, some of those backfield receptions, possibly some of Noah Fant. So that I think you're still going to see Judy very highlighted, Sutton obviously highlighted. When you have a talented receiving duo like that, they're going to be the focus. We don't know how quickly Javonte is going to be brought along. I think you and I think it'll be relatively quickly. But in terms of heavy volume, especially when it comes to targets, that remains to be seen. So I do not, and in fact, not only with those similar target volume that I expect to come Judy's way, I do not expect him to be drawing top coverage. I expect that to be going to Sutton.
Yep.
Thus, his efficiency theoretically should increase.
Yeah, I think his efficiency should increase from that factor. I'm hoping that I'm still a Drew Lock believer. I'm not going to lie to you on your show, but I'm hoping that Lock will also improve, because if you look at Lock's actual career, I think he's maybe played a total of 16 games. So for me, this will be the first full season that we get with Lock with all of his weapons. He's gotten actual receiving back in Javonte. So I'm hoping that with that, he will actually see some improvement from Lock. If not, it'll be Teddy B, and Teddy B is an uber efficient quarterback who is accurate and doesn't turn the ball over a ton. So with that, Jerry Judy's route running is going to come into play huge.
Oh, big time. And real quick, I'm going to jump over to the comments. Nick absolutely loved the sophomore slump topic. Well, of course, you've got the leading article on the collective site with your sophomore article, and it is a great article. Everybody go read it as soon as the show is over. Thank you for the inspiration. I decided to jump on some guys that you chose not to talk about, and two of my favorites, so I couldn't help it. Yeah, jumping back to Locke and Teddy, I actually do I'm not going to argue that Locke is necessarily a much better quarterback than Teddy. I mean, they're different types of quarterbacks, but what I do think is that Locke is going to be the week one starter, and he is going to be who gets pushed in. Calvin. I need to learn StreamYard. There we go. Read the boardroom, Shane.
There's so many GIFs with my face on that say read the room. It's not even funny.
You can't beat the most interesting man in the world one. Can't beat it. Oh. No, but all right, back to Locke. I do think he's going to be the week one starter. I don't necessarily think he's going to have a long leash, but I do think they are going to want to have him be the guy. And the reason I say that is simply because of their division. They're playing against Mahomes twice a year. They're playing against Herbert twice a year.
Yep.
And regardless of what you think about the Raiders, the offense was decent last year. So they're going to need to score points. And whether that comes with more risk, more mistakes, they need the ceiling that Locke can provide that Teddy just can't.
Completely agree.
And that may cost him a game or two over the course of the season, but it also gives them the opportunity to stay in some of these other games, at least have a shot to win it all. And some of those games that may cost him will be those same games. So it's a wash as far as that concern, only potential for net positive. I don't think you're going to see him throw many more winnable games away than Teddy would anyways.
Well, to your point, if you're choosing between Locke and Teddy, with Teddy, like you said, the ceiling is limited, so you're going to have a stellar defense. With Locke, the ceiling is higher. Yes, there's more room for error, but that also gives your defense a little bit more leeway because you
Bingo.
know he's going to be able to push the ball down the field, where Teddy doesn't as much.
Right now, you can be a little more aggressive in attacking the Mahomes and the Herberts
Yeah.
that you're going to be facing
Exactly.
regularly. What up, Anthony? All right, we're getting some activity in the chat tonight. This is fun. So, as it relates to Judy, I think Locke is better for him in that regard, though. Because, as you mentioned, probably going to be better target depth, probably going to see, I'd say, more opportunities in scoring situations. So,
Yeah,
just on those two factors alone,
he only had 3 touchdowns last year.
Bingo. And I mean, touchdowns might still remain low this year, especially with either of these guys at the helm. I'm not necessarily banking on a big TD bump, but I do expect
even if you double it, I feel like that's a pretty big bump for him from a fantasy perspective.
Huge. Oh, yeah, especially with the expected reception and yardage bump.
Yeah.
So considering what we think the QB situation is going to be, we'll just say mostly Locke, almost certainly some Teddy. Locke's going to screw up at some point enough that Teddy will see the field.
Definitely.
It will happen. Sutton will be back, taking away some of the top coverage. They're working at a rookie quarterback, kind of running back, phasing out an aging one. So a position that may or may not be relied on too heavily. We may be looking at some serious passing volume. So considering all these things, what is your opinion of Judy for 2021, and what is your dynasty outlook on Judy?
2021, I think we should see a slight improvement. He finished, according to Sleeper, as wide receiver 47 in PPR. That puts him right at the borderline end of a wide receiver 4, which I think that's going to be his floor. You're going to love this. It feels a bit hot takey. But I think his ceiling for 2021 could be a low-end wide receiver 2. Like I'm thinking wide receiver 24.
I do love it because I'm not far off.
So, and I've found this out through Scott Fishbowl last year and just kind of the teams that I drafted. I like guys that can run routes really, really sharply and get open that way and not have to rely necessarily on just pure athleticism. So Judy is my type of guy. I think with that, he's going to have a good year. And if, let's say he gets 8 games of Locke and 8 games of Teddy, I don't see why he doesn't crack 1,000 yards this year. Just with the way that he plays and the way that those two play. I mean, he was 150 yards off last year, so that's not asking for a ton more from him, just asking for a little more efficiency, which I think we'll see.
No, I completely agree. I'd be stunned if he doesn't reach 1,000 yards with health. From Player Profiler, his catchable target rate last year was 115th in the league.
Yes.
Yeah, it was
god-awful.
There was really only room to go up.
Yeah, totally agree.
I mean, it wouldn't take much to get. I mean, 8 catches, 8 better throws. He was there last year.
Yep,
and probably with a TD or 2, or a couple of his drops as well, which I do think will also be cleaned up. Drops are overrated. Don't worry about them. They can be fixed. They will be fixed. Judy is great. Don't worry about drops.
Yes.
And if you're worried about Judy, you can trade DK in your league today. And just as many drops.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. You'll find drops correlate heavily with targets.
Well,
if you drop the ball a lot and they're still throwing it to you, you're doing a lot right. So
yeah.
Don't worry about drops is the message.
What the hell? Hello, Deontay Johnson. Yeah, that's why. Do I need to take the jacket off, Jeff?
Is Jeff wrong? Is my question.
Do I need to unbutton? Move the mic a little. Is that better? Oh, I love that.
Saying 90 for 1150 and 9 touchdowns for Judy. I don't know if I'm quite there on the touchdowns, but I'm absolutely there for the 90 and 1150.
Yeah.
All right, gotta
No, I'm not on trial for murder, Jeffrey.
But if you're on trail for murder,
murdering your fantasy team, Jeff.
All right, so I'm going to motion to move to performance review number 2.
Let's do it.
Near and dear to my heart, DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is a guy that I think is coming across as a bit polarizing and I would say often extreme. I mean, those like me that are pro-Swift are very pro-Swift, and those that are not have him pegged down pretty far, even outside of RB2 range in a lot of situations. So you see a lot of range when it comes to these Swift opinions. Now, as for his rookie production, let me pull my tab up because I am not an encyclopedia and have all of these things memorized. But he did have in my opinion, a very strong season. He certainly did fantasy-wise.
Yeah, he finished his RB18 in PPR.
Yeah.
114 carries for 521 yards, 8 rushing touchdowns. Then, I did not realize this, but 57 targets, 46 catches.
Receptions.
Yeah, I like that a lot for 357 yards and 2 touchdowns.
10 touchdowns overall.
Yep.
So you put it together, just under 900 yards, close to 50 catches, 10 touchdowns in a pretty limited role. He really only got over 50% snap share towards the end of the season and still managed to put this together. He had a highly efficient season.
He missed 3 games too, weeks 11 through 13.
Concussion.
Yep.
So, I mean, well, there's my case right there. No. But with all that, I mean, that's a lot of the arguments that I am hearing, or it relates to a lot of the arguments I'm hearing against with, scoring opportunities, bad team, bad offense, blah, blah, blah. It's really not that much different. Obviously, Goff is a downgrade from Stafford, and the offense as a whole is likely to take a hit. But with that said, it's not like the Detroit offense was world beaters. So let's not pretend like they were running up 30 a game. It's not going to be that different. At least I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I all in on Swift. I think Goff actually, despite being a worse quarterback than Stafford, actually helps him because he's going to be more of a Charlie check down and use Swift as a safety valve. So I think, and I mean, outside of TJ Hawkinson, to me, Swift is the best target for Jared Goff. Cal, read the room, man. But so I think Swift's receiving game, I mean, he had 57 targets on it and converted 46 of those into catches. That's a efficient year right there for receiving work for a running back, no matter what. I love you too, Cal. But so my thing is I think his target number is going to go up. So that should mean his catch number goes up. If he doesn't double his attempts, I'd be shocked. Because to me, he should be the starting running back there, no question. So I think Swift has a real shot at an RB1 is his ceiling. RB2 for me is his floor.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I don't expect it. I think he does have top 5 upside. I'm still working on my own redraft rankings, but I've probably got him somewhere RB 8-9 for this upcoming season. I'm extremely high on him. I do expect, targets possibly to double. All they really have on offense is TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift. They're going to get the ball a lot.
Yeah.
They're probably going to push 260 targets between them, 280 targets maybe. I mean, it's going to be the Hawk and Swift show the whole year.
Yeah.
And as far as starter, I think that's a relative term. It'll be, who cares about that? But I do expect him to see the majority of the work. Jamal Williams will see the field a bit. I mean, nobody's trying to brush him off to the side. He's a good player. He has a role. He's good at what he does. I guess you're scarred a little from some of the more negative moments in Green Bay, but
just a little.
But he will see the field. So even if Swift only ends up with a 60% snap share over the course of the season, or 60% of running back volume, targets, carries combined, what have you, that's going to be more than enough for him to finish in the top 10 at running back.
Totally.
He doesn't need to be a bell cow. Yeah,
bell cow, I feel like in the NFL in general is changing, because if you look at the top friend of the collective, Matt FF Dynasty, who's with the Astros, tweeted this out a couple months ago, and it was like the top 3 running backs for 2020. I think one of them had a 65% snap share for the year. One of them had a 71%, and one maybe had 60 or 63%. So the definition of a bell cow back has changed to where you're getting 60 to 70% of the snaps, and that's your snap share.
That's dominant.
Exactly. So I think that's going to be an increased workload for Swift, and I think he's going to do really, really well with it, because I believe in the talent that's there.
Yeah, absolutely, a talent over situation play. And honestly, I don't think the situation is necessarily a negative for him, because I think being a primary weapon, one of the best 2 on the team at worst, there's nothing but a positive for him. And it's a good line that only improved with adding Penei Sewell. I mean,
should have been a Bengal, man.
He should have been.
Still bitter about that.
Should have been. It's a foolish football decision in my mind. Nothing against Chase. I love Chase.
I completely agree. Completely agree.
When we were having success, I'm a 49ers fan. With Harbaugh in the early part of the 2010s, we were built through the lines. I mean, everything is dominant. You dominate the trenches, you dominate the game.
Yep.
And obviously, will be a huge help for Mr. Swift.
Yep. I mean, shout out to my cousin's show.
Actually.
The J-Boy Show. He talks about that from a college football perspective all the time on his show. That the game is won and lost in the trenches on both lines, offensive and defensive. Yeah. The Lions have a good offensive line. So at the very least, they're going to be able to run the ball, because they're going to be able to block for it. And Goff is going to have time to throw. So that's going to give Swift time to get open. It's going to give Hawk time to get open. It's going to give Amon-Ra St. Brown time to get open. So yeah, I think Swift is going to have a really good year.
I really do too. And actually, speaking of the line and really knowing how to block for this type of running back, not that Swift is Kamara necessarily, but Rob FF Addict at Rob FF Addict, writer for many sites.
That guy.
He's great. He put out a fantastic thread, 2-3 weeks ago. June 17th. I've got a bookmark here. And there's a couple of numbers in here in particular that I want to point out that are relevant to what you're saying. So Dan Campbell, new head coach of the Lions, spent the last 5 years in New Orleans. And there, over that time, running backs averaged 334 carries, 144 targets, and 115 catches. So again, we know that coincides with Kamara, but he has bingo, though. But as a tight ends coach, so obviously working closely with the offensive line, having to be very integral in blocking scheme, knows exactly how to scheme for a player with that type of skill set. and he also has the proper personnel to do so. I mean, fade Swift at your own risk. I'm going to jump in with my 21 and Dynasty takes. My 21 take for Swift, RB8. I might be too low. Dynasty, RB6.
I think that's actually where. So I'm still tweaking my Dynasty rankings to get the proper scoring for them, I guess was the word that I would use. Right now, I have Joe Mixon at 6 and DeAndre Swift at 13. I'm trying to figure out a way to flip those. I would also have DeAndre Swift at 6.
All right. Fair enough. So we're in agreement. You are not one of the Swift haters. No. Well, that's good because I wanted to keep liking you. So we're going to have a motion to move to performance review number 3. One I am admittedly much less enthusiastic to talk about, but we're going to do it anyways because, well, maybe he does or doesn't, but there's relevance. And that is Jalen Reagor of the Philadelphia Eagles. I would say it's hard to characterize his rookie season as anything other than disappointing from both just being able to stay on the field and healthy standpoint, as well as production when he was on the field. He missed from weeks? He got injured in week 2, came back week 8.
Yep, missed week 3 through 7. Had 87 and 93% snap shares in weeks 10 and 11. Then from there, he did not crack 71% snap share for the rest of the season.
And from a production standpoint, he only had 1 touchdown, which came in his first game back.
That has to go up.
I think he has a shot at. His single game high in any matchup was week 1, actually, against Washington with 55 yards. Wasn't able to break that again. He broke 50 only one more time against Cleveland in week 11. So he
and
really
their secondary was bad. Trust me.
He had a hard time. He really did. Now, Carson Wentz obviously
also had a hard time.
Yeah. Bit of a disaster got a one-way ticket out of town. And as for Jalen Hurts, there's a variety of opinions regarding him, but we can say just in terms of raw completion percentage, not great. I haven't taken the time really to dive into Hurts targeting Reagor specifically, but the results are not very encouraging.
If you look at, because Hurts started, I think, around week 13 or 14, it looks like he actually had 2 games. Did he get hurt in week 17, or did they pull him when they pulled Hurts? Because he only had
probably
28%.
pulled him when they pulled Hurts. I don't remember, but yeah, he only had 8 routes.
Yeah, and only 28% snap share for that entire game, which is kind of surprising to me. But in weeks 15 and 16, he had 8 targets and 7 targets respectively. So I think their offensive line only can go up from last year. I really don't think it can get worse because they were hurt.
Yeah, I think they will. I think the line will be better.
So that's going to give Hurts more time to process things. It's going to give Sanders and Gainwell the ability to run the ball, hopefully more effectively, which then I think will open up the field. They also added someone who's actually a competent receiver in Devontae Smith. I think that's going to open up the field a lot for Reagor to be closer to what people expected him to be. The problem is going to be Hurts' accuracy, I think. And I love Hurts. Like, Hurts is the kind of guy I want my daughters to date because he's just a good human being. I also think he's a decent football player. He's got a lot of room to improve, but all he did at Alabama and Oklahoma was win. So I think he's got that instinct and the ability to lead a team that I don't know if Wentz really had. So I think that's going to help the team a lot, which then helps Rager. So really, if Hurts can be accurate this year, that offense can do better, and I think Rager will also improve.
I think that is a big if on a personal level. Yeah, big Hurts fan. I mean, seems like the greatest guy in the world. But as far as a quarterback, while he was great at Alabama, great at Oklahoma, we did see him removed in a national championship game to inject a little extra life with Tua.
Yep.
And
Well,
there's,
so
go ahead.
So, as you probably know, and most of our Nightcap listeners know, I'm an Auburn fan. So I've seen a lot of Jalen Hurts. So throw that up. Tebow's throwing motion took 12 years to process. Hurts can get the ball out quicker than Tebow could, probably left-handed, which is funny because Tebow was left-handed. But my thing with Hurts is my problem with him when he was at Alabama was when he was in trouble at Alabama, he basically said, "Oh shit, where's Calvin Ridley?" and chunked it up to Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, it's true.
So that to me is why he didn't succeed as much as he probably could have at Alabama. And obviously he's surrounded by 4 and 5 star people all around the field. Then when he went to Oklahoma, yes, their defenses in the Big 12 are garbage, but he still had, I think, a 70% completion percentage in the Big 12. That to me is still impressive because completing 70% of passes still means your line's not falling up, or you've got enough of a line to get the ball off. Your receivers aren't dropping passes, and you're getting the ball where it's supposed to be on time, which I don't. And actually, like having time to read defenses, which at Alabama, I don't know if he ever had to do because their offense was and their team was just so superior. So to me, I think the transfer to Oklahoma was actually good for him as a passer. But as the comment that you put up by Anthony says, their offensive line fell apart. Wentz was horrible. They basically had to put Hurts in, and I think, again, with the offensive line only being able to go up, Hurts should go up, Rager should go up. I've been talking too much.
No, that's why you're here. So you brought this up in some earlier episodes, but when you run something, you bring in people that know more than you, that are smarter than you when you're in charge of something. You don't hire people that can do what you do. You bring people in that can do what you can't do. You surround yourself with a strong team. That's why I bring in strong guests. I'm good. There are people better. That's why I bring you on.
Appreciate that.
Except for whatever you're doing with Scott Fishbowl, but we'll talk about that later. Because whatever I'm doing in comparison has to be better, just because I say so.
Oh, speaking of, I believe I'm on the clock.
Oh, all right. So we have a live pick here. So what pick are you at? What round are you in?
13.
Cruising?
07.
1307. All right.
All right. You want me to share my screen?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. For owners, draft. Okay. So little update on who I've got currently. Dak, Baker, Zeke, CEH, Etienne, Pollard, Robert Woods, Jarvis Landry, Brandon Cooks, Deebo Samuel, TJ Hawkinson, and Cole Kmet as my team right now. So I am now officially picking bench players. Ironically enough, there's Jalen Rager available for me. Another guy that I am really, really tempted to take is actually Henry Ruggs right here. But what I've also been contemplating is another kicker. I'm not taking a kicker. I refuse.
Do it. Do it.
No, I refuse.
All right, we tried. Boardroom. We tried.
So outside of a kicker, knowing my team,
Do you even? Sorry, I'm reading Anthony's. They're only in the 4th round. I know things were going slow on Monday. My goodness. Do they even want to play?
Oh, gross.
Anyways.
Gross. Yeah. No, our shout out Green Day division. We've been cooking.
Absolutely.
Even with one guy had an overnight shift, and we're still flying. So, I'm gonna go with my I'm gonna go with my gut, and I'm gonna go Henry Ruggs here. I need some upside with the receivers that I do have.
I like it. I'm not really a big Ruggs fan. I chose the other way when presented with the most likely shot to take him. But that is the type of risk that you definitely have to throw in there. Absolutely.
Shout out to another friend of the collective, Eagle Dan, for an article that he wrote for Roto Underworld. And it talks about, I think that the metric is called target separation. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it talks about, those route runners that I really like. Surprisingly enough, do you know who the number 1 receiver in the NFL last year was for target separation?
I can only assume this leading question is going to take us right to Henry Ruggs.
It is at 2.31 yards per target.
Wow.
So with that, I see Cal now. Yeah, now we're making up for it. Okay, all right. I love you, Cal.
He could be talking about me, Frank over here.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
So with that, to me, it says Ruggs is more than just a speed guy. He's actually getting separation on all of his routes. So Ruggs is another guy that honestly, we could talk about him as another performance review for sophomores. He's someone that I think could have a good sophomore year, or an improved sophomore year over his freshman year, because he was injured and had COVID in 2020. So I think him being on the field and getting more comfortable with that offense is going to only propel him. And then the speed gives you the ability to take the top off the defense and score touchdowns. So I like Henry Ruggs here.
And they brought in John Brown, but with 30-something John Brown is not, or late 20s John Brown is not a guy that I'm overly concerned about. So if Ruggs is going to break out, that's not going to be anything that stops him.
Yeah.
So it's worth the shot in the 14th or 13th round. That's definitely an upside play, what I'm okay with. So back to Rieger, and we'll quickly address this. Ruggs over Rieger. I mean, I would say yes.
I would too, honestly.
Just simply due to that upside, and I think there are less obstacles in the way and a better quarterback throwing him the ball in terms of just throwing the ball.
Well, and even if you look at what the stereotype is for Ruggs as a deep threat wide receiver, Derek Carr is actually one of the most accurate deep ball throwers in the league. He just doesn't do it often, but he's one of the most accurate.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it.
Because of some of the flaws he does have, the skills that he excels at often get overlooked. Yep. And that is one of them, his deep ball. So as it relates then to how this all plays out with Rieger, do you think also with everything we talked about, do you think expected, I think, negative game script for what should, I think, is going to be a terrible, just a terrible Eagles team this season? Is that at least going to give him chance at some level of volume? I mean, not everything can go to Goddard and Smith, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And he had 54 targets and 31 catches last year, didn't even crack 400 yards. He can only go up from there. Let's say we add 30 to both of those, so 84 targets and 61 catches. I mean, hell, that doubles him to almost 800 yards almost.
And 2 touchdowns.
And 2 touchdowns. That puts him right around what Judy finished at in 2020, which was wide receiver 47. Yeah.
Flex play.
It's a solid flex play. So I would I think the negative game the Eagles are going to be garbage this year. Even if their offense can be more efficient or improved, they're going to get their brains beat in, I think. Rager's game script, improved offensive line play should all point up for his stock, I think.
I'm not as optimistic it happened. Like I said, I'm not a big Hurts fan. Just in general, I'm not sure how much the accuracy improves there, and I'm not sure that they're going to take. Even with what I brought up, I don't actually necessarily think the negative game script is going to result in a lot of heavy passing volume necessarily. I think just with the skill set of Hurts and Miles Sanders and Smith, I could see Smith being used. I don't want to say he's going to be used like Debo. He's a great receiver. But I mean, I could see some similar type packages dialed up for him. I could see a lot of schemed touches for Devontae just to get the ball in his hands. So and I think that's all those things are a negative for Rieger.
I would agree. And I especially agree on the Devontae part because Nick Sirianni likes to I can't think of the word. Expose matchups and utilize talent. So Devontae Smith fits that perfectly. And running joke, and Cal, you're going to love this if you're still watching, is I've got like 37 favorite teams. I have 2 favorite college football teams. One of those is Notre Dame. Alabama, in the first drive of the college football semifinal, didn't throw the ball to Smith until the very end of the first drive. And then they used Smith in about 7 different ways to get him the ball, and I think he eventually scored the first touchdown. Sirianni is going to do the exact same thing on finding ways to get the ball in Smith's hand.
I couldn't agree more to that, actually. I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
But I still think they're going to have to throw the ball a lot.
And I think a lot of that's going to go to Smith, too. I think he's going to be a target monster.
How many targets do you think he gets, though?
I think he clears 100 easy.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's pushing 125.
Yeah. Well, so then how many do you think?
I mean, he's not. Yeah, he's not going to get Hopkins volume. I guess he's not going to see 160. But
yeah.
But I also think most of those secondary targets are going Goddard's way or shorter dumps to Sanders. I don't think much of that's still going to Rieger. Mostly because I don't think he's that good.
That's fair.
I mean, even with all the obstacles that he faced, that's really my thing. I mean, yes, bad line, Wentz sucked. Hurts wasn't necessarily accurate when throwing the ball. He didn't suck, but he wasn't an accurate thrower. If the best you can do is 55 yards in a game, and that was on one single reception, your high for receptions in any game was 5 for 49 yards. I mean, there's just nothing there. There's nothing at all. And I don't care what the situation is. If that shows that he really isn't doing much once he has the ball in his hands either, he's not really doing anything to make a real difference on the field. And I'm just not interested. So
that's fair.
And in terms, so with obviously the same question as we're going through these players, redraft and dynasty. When it comes to redraft, I really want no part of him. It would take a real strong run of weeks for me to even be interested in picking him up on waivers, at which point he will be gone. There's no chance I see him there. And in dynasty, the entire league would have to feel very similar for him to drop far enough in a startup for me to consider taking him.
That's fair. That's fair. What round would you take him in a startup?
If it's super flex, 13th.
That's interesting. He was just available for me at 1307, 1306. I don't remember what 1307 and Scott Fishbowl. Now it's redraft obviously, but
Right.
if it were a dynasty startup and he fell to 1307, you're taking him?
There's a lot of variables there. I would consider it.
Okay.
I would consider it. I would say that's the earliest I would think, all right, that's where I'll take. Well,
Did you
there's
lose
enough.
me?
I did. I think we both were cut off for a second. But yeah, I think there's enough youth there. He was picked high enough that you can justify at least hanging on to him. But I mean,
Yeah.
Or it's N'Keal Harry all over again. He's about to get cut and then going to request a trade.
I don't know. I'm not ready to give up on Rager just yet, just because of what happened with him in 2020. I want to see one actual full year, not a COVID year, before I'm ready to give up on him. Cal, is that wide receiver 86?
Frieger's really going in ADP 86.
Oh, Devontae's
Devontae.
going
Okay.
86.
I was going to say. That's wild.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not ready to give up on Rager yet. I think he's worth a flyer as a bench player in redraft, especially in something like Scott Fishbowl where you need potential upside because he's got the speed and athleticism to be a fill-in flex play. For Dynasty, though,
I don't know.
I think so. Well, I mean, we'll have to see. Honestly,
Yeah.
this year is going to be a defining year for him, for sure. If he doesn't improve on last year, then see ya.
Our friend Drew, DFB Encounter, often brings up rookie faceplants and highly encourages fading those guys right away. And I don't subscribe to that 100%, but the data is pretty compelling. It's a low hit rate for those that, faceplant in their rookie year. And that's exactly what Rager did. The situation, his talent that I was lukewarm on to begin with, that's, Oh, interesting on Rager. So, ADP 125, wide receiver 50. Yeah. So if it's 125, early 11th, I'm out.
I might take him there.
If I'm in a league with a bunch of sharps and there's nobody left, maybe.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going to leave that because I'm kind of sick talking about Rager. We ended up talking about him as much as the guys I like.
Me too.
I do not like that. I do not like that at all. So we're going to kind of close out our show here. I like to call it the Park Avenue Journal, just to look around relevant headlines in the league. It's a light time for that. So what I'd like to focus on for just a brief few minutes is what we've mentioned here a couple times. Scott Fishbowl 11. It's the talk of the fantasy community right now with all live drafts going on. As we saw from Anthony, some drafts are slogging along, barely more than a round a day, round 4. Shout out, Anthony. That sucks. I don't know what else to say. You need to get in that league chat and just fire some people up. And then there are drafts like my division, My Chemical Romance. We have been the fastest draft most of the time. I'm going to take a quick look. I want to say we're in round 17.
goodness.
We are almost done with round 17, and Todd Gurley just got picked, ladies and gentlemen. Todd Gurley is off the board. Oh my God,
That
I
is
love it.
wild.
Todd Gurley.
That's
I'm sorry, I'm
insane.
so distracted during this episode, but that is fantastic. In the 17th round. So I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus here. This is all public knowledge, and maybe that's a nice high upside pick. Somebody gets hurt. He goes in, scores a few cheap touchdowns in the middle of the season for somebody. Boom, value at virtually no cost. So I'm not really going to hate on it. But, man, Todd Gurley, not a name I expected to go off the board there. I figured some, at this point, some later flyers on tight ends or safety of some kicker floors in some cases, because this group has largely faded kickers, so there's still some talent there on the board. I took a kicker.
I just
so
had
you
to
know,
give you a
Shane,
hard time. That doesn't surprise me. That's on brand for you.
Proudly, it's not though, because I was the fifth one to take a kicker. I was not first. It was
That's
only
fine.
fifth. I mean, I squeaked into the top half, but that's highly disappointing. So what I want to do here, son of a gun, this Roto Grinders app is excellent and an amazing tool.
Can you throw up that comment by Dim Boys?
Oh, what are we doing here?
That one.
That's the one. And Anthony here. Hope to see you Friday night mocks time. Anthony, our good friend over at Get Right Fantasy Network, host of the Friday night mocks. That's how I got introduced to him. The mocks are a blast. Love those guys. Love the whole Get Right fam. Dem boys. Get Right regular. Great group over there. And you will see me Friday, Anthony. I will be there. Just don't let that link fill up before I can claim my spot. Hopefully I won't be too slow. With the Scott Fish Scott Fish Bowl going on, the mocks have not taken priority. All right, so My Chemical Romance is still the fastest division, 7-10. I'm going to give you a few other quick highlights. The Rihanna division had an entire round run of wide receivers. So they have the longest wide receiver run at 12.
That is wild.
FF Peacock is the latest to take a QB so far at 11:03. NA Parker 77, latest to take their first running back, 10:12. So wow, they really went 0 RB. My God, I don't even think Kevin Tompkins waits that long. Oh my! Latest wide receiver one. Klug has lost his place. FI 2 drink minimum, 12:09. Wild.
Wow, 1209?
Yeah.
That's impressive. That is very impressive.
But I bet that's a build that probably will still work.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, we got some real interesting notes in here. And yeah, the police still only on round 5. All right. So at least that must be Anthony's division if they just got into the 5th round. And actually, I'm going to go back to your team real quick, Shane.
Okay.
Because I want to ask you a little bit about your logic attacking a tournament like this. Obviously, not much time for playing. There's plenty of strategy shows out there, so I didn't want to necessarily do an episode based around that, but I do want to get an idea of your mindset as it relates to why you made some of the picks you made or why you went with the build you went with. Did this go according to plan in any way? How much did you have to pivot in terms of what you were hoping for? So I imagine Dak at 1 was probably a target. You have a good idea of who's going to be there at that spot mostly.
Yeah. So I picked between Dak and Lamar at 106. Honestly, I just kind of went with my Cowboys fandom and the fact that Dak was averaging 27.5 points per game before he got hurt last year. Think he can do similar because that defense, while it will be improved, will still be bad. So they are going to, and Dak's just talented. So I went with Dak there. Then Zeke at 207. I told the 106 group chat that if Zeke was there at 207, I might break my phone trying to draft him because I don't think I could draft him fast enough. Because Zeke with Dak is a much better player, and I think Zeke has a chance to make a little bit of a comeback this year.
I agree.
Then Hawk at 307 was kind of my, I won't necessarily say a pivot, but it was my how I'm going to change from what I did last year to this year. So last year, tight end was my weakest position, I felt like, because Ertz got hurt, and then Irv Smith never really broke out. So I wanted to guarantee that I had a top 5 tight end. So I took DJ Hawk. CEH, I took him because of the pass catching upside, and I just think he's gonna be a sophomore surge. They invested in their offensive line through free agency trades in the draft.
It's looking like it's in good shape.
Andy Reid is typically one that shields his rookie running backs. So CEH is no longer a rookie. I think the reins are going to be let go, and he's going to be able to do what people drafted him for. Then QB2, Baker, total homer pick. I'm not even going to lie. But I also relied on the fact that at the end of last year, he was on a tear. He's comfortable in Stefanski's offense. He's going to be more efficient than he was now that he's comfortable. They get OBJ back. They added Anthony Schwartz. They've still got Chubb and Hunt and Landry. So I'm really excited to see what Baker can do this year. Etienne, I wanted a third RB that had potential starting.
Love it.
Yep. And also he's got pass catching upside. Then I hammered veteran receivers that I think are a little underrated.
Nailed it.
With potential wide receiver 1 upside on their team, not necessarily in fantasy, and Robert Woods I had last year, so I had to have him this year too.
Real quick. No,
yeah.
I do think Woods has wide receiver 1 potential. Absolutely. And particularly in this format, I think he's going to rack up reception and first downs in a high volume, high scoring offense.
Yeah.
So Woods in the 7th is filthy.
Thank you. Cooks, they don't have anyone else to throw to. So even if the quarterback is some bum off the street because Tyrod gets a punctured lung and Davis Mills isn't as good as people are hoping he is, and because I don't think Deshaun is playing in Houston if he's playing at all this year, they have to throw to somebody, and it's going to be Cooks. Landry is definitely where I had to pivot. I was hoping to potentially get him around later, but that's because I wanted Chase Claypool at this pick, and he got picked. So I pivoted to Landry because he's criminally underrated, and I got to stack him with Baker. Debo, shout out to Alcalo FF, I think. Don't know if I said your name right, but he actually released a thread today on Debo, and he gives me that upside that I don't necessarily have with the other veteran guys on my team. Pollard, I took a page out of my book from last year. I think Pollard is what I would consider to be like a super handcuff. He's not your normal handcuff of like, if the starting running back goes down, that's the only reason you want him. Pollard has some flex value as a standalone player. Cole Kmet, I needed a backup tight end. Kmet's someone I think that can break out, and I got him at tight end 17, so I'm definitely cool with that. God bless America. How do I look like I'm on trial? I don't understand. And
just
then
kind of scruffy hair, no tie. Just
scruffy hair, no tie, like scruffy hair. I've got a receding hairline because
that doesn't help your case, my friend.
I know.
So
I normally wear a hat, but we're at a board meeting, so I didn't wear a hat.
You look uncomfortable in the suit a little bit,
It's just
and
the way
I think
I'm
that
sitting.
plays into it.
It's honestly just the way I'm sitting.
And now we know your Ruggs thought here. You made that pick on air, so
There, is that better? It's a little tight. I've gotten fat.
you're good, man.
Yeah.
So,
So,
yeah,
and
that's
then Ruggs we talked about.
Yes. So yeah, I'm gonna say I really dig the build of your team. I'm gonna show mine here in just a second. I was hoping to get Dak at the 107 spot, but he went fourth off the board, so didn't get that opportunity. Yeah, I ended up with Lamar, as you'll see. But going running back in the second, I like tight end in the third. I chose not to do that in the second, and the value never really came back around to me, so I missed out on an elite tight end. So that's kind of where we ended up veering off. I agree with you on CEH. I do think he's due for a breakout. Baker in the fifth for this format, this tournament, good. ETN. If any of you guys watched episode 1, you know exactly how I feel about Travis Etienne. He is the guy. He's at RB24, definitely going to be the steal of the position in my mind. And then you just nailed it with just great solid receivers. Woods is always underrated. Bobby Trees is going to be a wide receiver 1. You can book that. Brandon Cooks,
Book it.
going to be a top 30 receiver. You can book that. And you got these guys in the 7th and 8th round. Little wider range of outcomes with Landry and Debo, but you know when they play, they're going to be solid and do have decent ceilings. And from there, yeah, you're building good depth. So I love exactly what you're doing. The right mix of proven talent, great upside, and great value with where these players were taken. I cannot argue with that at all here.
I appreciate that.
Your division is doing you a favor.
They have sniped. So shout out to Green Day, because for like the last 3 rounds, we've been on kind of a, not really a true wide receiver run. Obviously not the 12 straight, but wide receivers have been flying off the board. And they have been sniping the bejesus out of me left and right. So shout out to them, because they are drafting really well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have to say the same about my division, to be honest. They're all real sharp. My Chemical Romance division is just on it. The last couple of rounds have been pretty brutal, but
I like your team a lot.
thank you, sir. Yeah, I feel like this is so far gone from what I envisioned. I didn't really practice what I preached, or I just, I pounded the drum for absolutely must walk away with one of the top 3 at worst top 5 tight ends. Must. That sometimes it just doesn't work that way.
The 3 that you got, though, are perfect for this year, in my opinion. Komet's got a huge opportunity to take over the target share at tight end for the Bears. And I think it's going to happen.
I think it is too.
Cook, while he's older, is still a good tight end, and the Chargers don't have a tight end because Henry left.
Right.
And then Jarwin in the 14th is almost criminal.
I don't know how he was forgotten about. I mean, I know he was hurt last year, but my goodness. Tight end 23?
Yeah, that's... So you got Komet at tight end 16?
Yep.
That's it. We got him 1 pick apart, and I actually got him at tight end. I got him at 1206, I think, but got him as tight end 17. Well, yeah, 1206,
so right
but I got him as tight end 17. You got it 1207 and got him tight end 16. That is interesting, but I love it.
Yeah, so I did want to, typically in a super flex draft, I do try to fade QB if it's possible. So I often won't go quarterback first round, but the scoring is so punitive to poor QBs that I couldn't walk away without at least one.
2. Yeah.
Well, at least one great one.
Yeah.
And so Lamar was really not that hard of a decision with Dak, Kyler, Mahomes, Allen all off the board.
Yeah.
That's the clear top 5 to me. You can debate the order, but those are the 5. And then when it came down to the second round, I did want to go running back. I'll never support 0 RB necessarily. I mean, again, if value falls, blah, blah, blah. But I'm an RB heavy guy. Typically, even a little more robust RB than what you're seeing here. But again, format plays into it.
0 RB in a dynasty league, and my wide receivers are absolutely the most filthy wide receiver core I think I've ever seen. But my running backs are garbage, and it makes me cry. The only other time I've done it was in a best ball league, and I was like, I'm just going to do it just to try out the strategy in best ball.
And in best ball, that's fine. Yeah, because it's much easier to just live with whatever happens. God, it's just not fun. Part of it is, again, having fun. We often preach, have fun, go get your guys, blah, blah, blah. One of the ways to have fun is to have good running backs because there aren't many of them. So I went Eckler.
Every time someone says I'm on trial. So we're down to 3 now.
So I did go Eckler. I think he's going to see a lot of receptions, be responsible for a lot of first downs. I'm extremely high on Eckler. RB8 is just prime territory. Not great value. It's hard to really get great value in the top couple of rounds, but I think that's a perfectly appropriate spot for him. I did end up choosing him over Kittle. I took the chance maybe he'd come back. I should have known better. Doesn't matter. I normally would not go receiver in round 3, but I knew the next running back I was targeting would be there at 4, and that did happen. Swift, baby. So this is one area where the league did give me a gift. They just decided here, have an RB1 in the 4th round. We don't care. So since we're going to give you that, I decided to go ahead and take my redraft wide receiver 1 at Nuke. I think Hopkins is just set for another absolutely monster season, another 160 targets, another just 20 plus points a game. Hopkins to the moon. Well, I don't know if he'd had that in Scott Fishbowl scoring, so I take that back. But he was up there in the only dynasty league I have him, and it made me very happy. Matt Ryan in the 5th for my second QB. I was thinking
that is your steal of the draft.
Yeah,
I've seen him go like 3rd and 4th round in a lot of drafts. I love him in the 5th round for you, especially with Lamar.
That's because I had Lamar is why I ultimately made the decision too, because I thought about just trying to punt that QB2 down the road again, see if I can't get another higher level receiver to go, so to have 2, in my mind, 2 top running backs, 2 top receivers to go along with a top quarterback. But I think Ryan has a shot to be still in that top, 15 quarterbacks. So if I have 2 top 15 quarterbacks go along with the rest of this group, I got him in the 5th. I can't argue with that at all, especially at QB 18. And there will certainly be some spike weeks where he's going to very much outperform that. Woods, old reliable. I already mentioned I do look at him as a wide receiver 1. I think I've got him at 11. Deontay Johnson in the 7th, I think was a smash value as well.
That's stealing as well. Yeah.
That situation is admittedly a little muddy, but to me, Deontay is pretty clearly the guy who's going to see the most volume. I think the offense is, obviously Najee's going to be quite involved, but I don't think much in the way the passing volume is distributed is going to change.
Yeah, no, the way I view it is Deontay's going to be the volume guy. Claypool is going to be your touchdown upside guy just because of the way that they use him. And he's such an athletic freak. So, but no, I love the Deontay pick, especially because he's your wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
With wide receiver 1 upside.
Yeah, I would have happily taken him as a 2. So,
yeah, exactly.
I'm thrilled with that. Jones there as my 3rd running back. I'm pretty happy with Rojo in that role. This guy is going to have a spike week guy, and maybe this is the year Arians realizes what he has. I'm not going to count on that, but a guy can just hope. As Herms would always say, you do not besmirch the name of Rojo. Do not besmirch! All right,
Oh my
calm
God,
down
I
now.
love it.
But his name does get besmirched a lot, and I'm a big Rojo guy. Love Rojo. Devontae Smith. This is the one where it was the first one where I was a little nervous, a little scared to take. I mentioned earlier, I do think he's going to be a target monster, but this is that first, the high risk, high upside pick, so to speak, on this roster. And it's one you have to take. It's the most measured risk I could think to take in that spot. So I went for it. And if he does become anything close to what I think, that's going to be proved to be a steal as well. AB in the 10th, just a play of I didn't want to take Godwin and Evans where they were going. So you're just taking the cheapest of that trio.
That's a pretty good pick.
Melvin Gordon, contrary to popular belief, is not dead. Melvin Gordon is still a good football player. Melvin Gordon was an RB2 last year. And
He's an inefficient plotter, but at RB37, you've got to take that.
He has some receiving ability as well. So I wouldn't just pigeonhole him as just a plotter. I don't think that's totally the case. I mean, he's not the most impressive runner at this stage, but he's a good player. And yeah, at RB37, it's hard to see him. That feels like his floor to me. Because even if
that's fair.
There's two scenarios in my mind. You're going to see Javonte come in, take over quickly. And if that's the case, I still think there's going to be a notable role for Gordon, or regardless of when Javonte takes over in Denver. I think you're still going to see a notable role for Gordon. I don't think they're just going to give a rookie that kind of volume. I mean, that kind of situation is reserved for high first-round picks.
Is Javonte's rookie year Swift's rookie year?
It could be, and Melvin Gordon could be a little bit better AP.
Yeah. I just made that connection in my head, and I kind of like it.
I am going to look at some numbers later. That's actually a really curious question. I got to do some research later. But yeah,
You're welcome.
That's a thought. So if that's but if that's the case, I mean, and then Melvin Gordon is a 20% better Adrian Peterson, that's a hell of a year.
Thanks, Mike.
Which I think would be reasonable. I'm not going to say thanks, Mike. Melvin is not done. But what's up, Mike? How's it going, man? Then you kind of went over what's going on with my tight end situation. That everything you said was kind of right along the lines I was thinking. 15, I hated pretty much every option on the board. I'm at that stage of the draft, so I went Hubbard.
Why didn't you take a kicker there?
Because I knew I could wait an extra round. And I still got the kicker I wanted.
Whatever.
You don't reach when you don't have to. You have to be comfortable with reaching where you know it's necessary. But sometimes, as much as taking risks on taking players like a Hubbard, like your Ruggs pick, sometimes you also have to take the risk that in doing so, the next guy you want is also still going to fall. Yep. And for some reason, well, you know what? I was complimenting my Chemical Romance mates, which they are a great group and are mostly good drafters. But the fact that, this is only the 5th kicker off the board in round 16, maybe not as sharp as I thought.
Oh, I don't even know.
Yeah.
We've had...
Yeah, where are you guys at in terms of your
kicker
selections? Yeah, I'm really curious because you're 13th, so...
13th round, I think we've had one.
Just one? All right, yeah.
Yeah, it's just been Koo at 11:06.
Our first one went 12:02, Justin Tucker. Second one didn't go till the 14th round anyway. So
yeah, so we're about there.
We've really only had this run. Yeah. I kind of kicked off a semi-kicker take here. I had a couple go after me within the next round or so. And then my final pick to this stage is Jacoby Myers, the 17th round. Again, just another guy that I'm taking an upside shot on. He had a lot of pretty good, useful weeks with Cam Newton last year. And Cam Newton will be the starter at the beginning of the season anyways, to start this season. So even though they brought in Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne,
Johnny
not
and
really-
Hunter Henry.
Johnny and Hunter Henry are something to be a little more concerned about. But as far as the wide receiver room itself, I wouldn't worry too much about the other guys. Not that I'm necessarily pounding the drum here for Jacoby, but at wide receiver 73, that's, again,
It's worth a shot.
This stage, yeah. I mean, at this stage, everybody's just an upside play. You're taking gamble at whatever your favorite lottery ticket is.
Yeah.
But in my case, he had a decent second year last year. He's in line for hopefully a little third year boom. The situation's not ideal, but he does have, again, some rapport with Cam. I would hope that he's putting in some of that extra work with Mac, just so that he's ready. I mean, they're two guys that are younger, theoretically going to be there for a while. So I just think, he was,
I
he was our
like
best
Myers.
receiver last year, so I expect that to be, no worse than him being maybe their second best pass catching option.
I like that. I like Bourne and Aguilar personally, but they're going to have to build a rapport with whoever the quarterback is. I like Myers at the 17th round. Like, why the heck not at this point? So, hey, drop the mic, FF. What two brownies you got? We'll wait for his comments so I can see who he's got. I may have to draft another one just to beat you. Chubb and Bacon. Ooh, I like that stack.
I like that too.
I like that stack
Dustin,
a lot with Chubb and
enlighten
Bacon.
you with what? What did it must have been right after a comment one of us made.
I don't know.
So that's kind of where we're at with Scott Fishbowl. I mean, this has been pretty awesome first week in general, as far as, or at least first 3 days. I'm having a hell of a time drafting. This is my first Scott Fishbowl, so this has just been kind of overwhelming. I've talked about that a couple times.
Hey, for this being your first Scott Fishbowl, you're killing it, sir. I appreciate the work that you're putting in.
No, well, thank you. I mean, being a little personal while still live, we've been in connection for a little bit now, so you can kind of know where.
Oh, I know you.
This
you know
isn't
your shit.
well, this hasn't been. Yeah, while I'm still new to this publicly, this has been in the works for some time, and a lot of work on the foundation of all of this.
Yeah,
not without a lot of help from a lot of people. But you know that, this didn't just pop up. So it's exciting. I really do appreciate the compliment. Yeah, keep on buttoning that shirt, baby. You know what?
no, I was just.
That's how you're going to win the trial.
Yeah, just keep unbuttoning that shirt.
Well, yeah. I mean, the judge might find you attractive.
That's debatable.
Everybody's different. Don't judge.
My
That's
wife
what the
finds
judge
me
does.
attractive. Don't know how.
Hey, you don't ask, or you don't ask how. Just
happy wife, happy life.
Happy wife, happy life. Yes, sir. So with that, we're nearing the end. Thank you for staying up quite late over there. I know we're pushing 11:30 at this point, but definitely thank you for the time, your commitment, dedication here to the boardroom, to the collective. I want to say for everybody else here to see, it is great to be part of this team at the Fantasy Collective with you. This is such an exciting venture that we're going on that's still continuing to grow. There are a lot of things that we have that we're working on behind the scenes right now, with it being a little bit of a slower period, and people preoccupied with Scott Fishbowl and other charity tournaments at this particular point in time. It's not necessarily being rushed on our end, but we do have a lot that's going to be coming to you soon. A lot of new. Well, just a lot of new. That's where we're going to leave it.
Yeah, I like that.
So just be ready, be excited, be ready to have just a hell of a time. And before we get out of here, if there's anything you would like to say, Shane, anything you want to push, promote, talk about, or if you just want to say, I'm ready for bed, floor is yours.
First off, Mike, I will DM you. He asked me about how my hand is because I stabbed myself last week.
I should have asked about that.
That's all right. second and more importantly, thank you, Tycoon, for having me on. It was a blast. And I anticipate many more board meetings with myself and yourself and other board members potentially. So thanks for having me on. It was fun. Make sure you follow us, Tycoon, and the Fantasy Boardroom Twitter accounts. And then the one thing I want to plug, and I try and plug it on whenever I'm guesting, is obviously Polly's Playoff. So I do run a charity tournament myself, inspired by Scott Fishbowl, because I was in his division for my first Scott Fishbowl. That was an experience. But he's also just been a really great mentor to me in general. So shout out to Scott, and huge thanks to him and all the help that he's offered me and that I've asked for. But Polly's Playoff is a tournament to end Alzheimer's. It's a $10 minimum entry fee that is actually donated directly to the Alzheimer's Association through my wife and my team page for the Walk to End Alzheimer's. So if you want more information on that, or if you want to sign up, just go to my pinned tweet at FFShaneB. Draft will probably be sometime in the first week of August. That's at least what I'm aiming for, but got to get filled up first. And thanks again.
It's a very easy sign-up process. It's a very reasonable, minimum donation there for an outstanding purpose. I think, whether directly or indirectly, many of us have been affected in our lives or somebody we love's lives through Alzheimer's. I'm going to be participating for the first time myself this year. I wasn't aware of Shane or this tournament in time last year, so I wasn't able to do it then. But yeah, really, not until later in the summer did I really come around to Mr. Shane Barrett. But I am really excited to be participating this year. And hopefully we can make a notable donation as an entire tournament to the Alzheimer's Association.
Yeah, so last year we raised...
I was just going to ask, what was the total last year?
We raised a little over 5,000
okay.
As a team. So we're not there yet, but I know I don't think everybody that's in Polly's Playoff has donated yet. That's fine.
I haven't yet, so I got you.
I'll start chasing donations closer to the actual draft. But then through my team, I let people make a pick for me on my actual team in Polly's Playoff if they donated. So a couple different things coming down the pipeline. Probably another final push to go get that filled and get that donation beat.
Well, everybody go join, go donate. It's that season. Let's do great in the fantasy community. I mean, it's just another part of the chain, another extension, like you said, of Scott Fishbowl, what it's all about, and it's just extending effect on the community. So with that, once again, thank you, Shane. We are going to close out this session of the Fantasy Boardroom, and this meeting is adjourned.